Hello and welcome to a kind of impromptu episode of Invisible Walls. We're taping this a little early because Comic-Con's going on and all this craziness is happening. So we decided to do a special episode of Invisible Walls, and it's all questions from you guys that we got through Twitter. We call this section On the Hook, but it's basically Q&A. And I got Daniel Bloodworth with us today.
Hey.
Who's been kind of missing in action. You were on
vacation.
a little vacation and whatnot. And this guy, Marcus Beer.
Klaatu barada niktu.
That's pretty good.
Thank you.
Are you getting ready for Comic-Con?
Yeah. Oh boy.
Bring in your toys next time.
Doctor Who in the house.
Okay, so I'll be asking the questions today, but I'll also be replying as well. And I think we have 23 questions to go through.
Are you going to be Piers Morgan?
I was pretty undiscriminate with allowing questions in.
Oh, you've got some
dupes.
pearlers there. Some absolute world-class ones.
This one is from Deathwatch0885. That's one of my favorite Death Watches. Is there any PlayStation Vita game under NDA that you're excited for? Please say yes. I think the sad part about this question is even if you subtracted under NDA, I'm not sure if I'd be able to say yes.
I'm excited for Tearaway.
Yeah,
but I'm not gonna buy a system. I'll just borrow one from work.
It's the go-to game, but I as good as Tearaway, the Media Molecule game, looks, I just don't think it has that oomph that kind of like Little Big Planet did, even though it's kind of has a lot of the same sort of trappings and
Have you seen it on a Vita screen though?
No, I've only seen the trailers.
Yeah, I think it's one of those games that like you actually have to see it in person.
I played it on the Vita, and it's fun. I will answer.
You're gonna get it,
but I will answer the question in two parts. First of all, are there any games under NDA that I'm excited for? No. Am I still excited for the Vita with regards to what it can do? Hopefully with the PS4. Yes, and that's like me being optimistic.
Yeah, I know a little while ago Persona 5 .jp was registered in Japan, and that may just be Atlus's parent company trying to drive up some value, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Persona 5 isn't a console game, especially with the way like JRPGs are going, if you're not like Square, Yeah. Or maybe has Triace even had anything in a while? It seems to be really going to the portable, especially with that market being predominantly on the handhelds and expense-wise. Persona 4 looked good on Vita as well. The game I was kind of curious about was, remember that cross-play game that looked kind of like Diablo? I'm trying to remember. Was it Rune or something like that?
It changed names too, so that makes
and that
it
kind
harder.
of went like missing in action. But, the Vita is it's a little weak. Hopefully, maybe like you said, PlayStation 4, there can be some nice cross-links. Obviously, PlayStation Plus is now going to be working for all three systems, so maybe that will entice some people to get in there. But there's not too much on the horizon other than we keep saying Tearaway. I keep thinking Puppeteer is a Vita game, but it's not.
No, it's not.
I think, which is a bad thing, but that Puppeteer looks good too.
It does look fun.
Kind of an aside. This next one is from Jonathan Apoc. Will next-gen titles actually play like next-gen titles, or fall short, being the great games we expect? So what exactly makes a game a next-gen title?
I think, what we've seen has been more about, more of this like connectivity stuff, more persistent online, but it doesn't, I don't know, like, is there any reason that can't be done now? I don't think so.
I think it's one of those things that, it's a nebulous term, because if we could nail what a next-gen title actually means, we'd all be off making it and making lots of money. I think for what I'm looking for from next gen is deeper, richer experiences, bigger storylines, less loading times. Yes, improved quality of graphics. I'm not talking photorealism, but you look at what GTA is promising. In GTA 5, you look at what Fallout New Vegas can do when it's patched, and you have this. Imagine that in an open world environment. The Elder Scrolls Online next year. That's going to be interesting to see how that MMO translates to the consoles. But do I think we'll see anything in the first 12 months that's actually next generation gameplay? No, I think it's going to be 18 months to 2 years.
I still think, especially with a lot of games being on both generations and the PC, I think it is, like you made up a good point, it's a lot harder to point your finger at exactly what next gen is when it used to be like, oh, now it's HD, or the graphics are always something more noticeable, or just the RAM being more complicated. But I think, did any of you guys catch that community post from Ubisoft about the Watch Dogs engine and the level of simulation going on.
Oh,
in the engine.
I did.
So I think we're going to see some quasi next gen stuff even in the current gen things. I think simulation. We've talked about kind of like AI and stuff, just scenarios that hopefully it seems like a lot of people are putting a lot of money into the RAM, and I know that's been a point of contention for the Xbox One as well, with how much is being eaten up by the OS and stuff like that. But I still think it's maybe going to be a little more subtler. Again, I think with PC games looking so good right now, that kind of visual leap for being able to be like, oh, that's a next gen game is going to be a little harder than it has been in the past.
You know what the real next gen experience is going to be? You're going to trash talk to your friend over Xbox One, and the police will come and arrest you in real life.
Nice, and they'll take a mugshot for you, so they don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like, I think we may not see so much of that until we get off of this cross-gen training wheels.
Well, this next question kind of is a little bit of a repeat of what we just said, but I think we can talk for a second. Rahul Maharaj, I think. What do you guys think about GTA 5 not being on next gen versus Watch Dogs being on next gen and the previous console generation?
Well, it's not on next gen as of this moment.
Right. We've seen Rockstar bring Bully to next gen with the Scholarship Edition, but we didn't see. Well, I guess there wasn't really anything else maybe in that time period.
They haven't done any of those like HD conversions on any of the previous ones, have they?
The closest thing would be the stuff that ended up on the PSP,
right?
Which is still kind of questionable if that would be really considered kind of an up port or something. It's
I kind of think that they won't, honestly. I mean, I know you have a different opinion, but
well, if they do the PC version, right? Like, which has been rumored.
Well, look,
but I mean, all the money and the population is on the current consoles. There's not really a lot of benefit for them to
Game of the Year edition year out.
Grand Theft Auto Ultra Deluxe #5 with additional multiplayer and for PS4 and Xbox One, and will also come with the expansion packs. And look. They're developing this stuff, they're developing stuff on these engines that are probably, if they're smart, and let's face it, they are, they're programming them and creating everything in the highest possible resolution anyway, because it's easier to down-res something than it is to up-res something. Yeah. So they're already, and this game's been in development for a good few years, and I'm sure Microsoft and Sony got them dev kits the nanosecond they were available, because Rockstar are the, cream of the crop. So yeah, I think that they have these engines and these builds ready to go, so they don't even have to worry about up-resing them, and the versions we're looking at on 360 and PS3 are the down-res versions. You look at it, one disc for Xbox One as opposed to the 2 discs that we're hearing about. So yes, there will be one. It will probably be out next year.
And then Watch Dogs again. I think the gamer inside me wishes that they would drop the pretense of being current gen and go all in for next gen. But from with games being so expensive to produce, on a business side, and it kind of hurts me to say, I can completely understand why they're doing it. And it looks like they're doing a good job with the ports as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've only seen the PS4 version. That's the one they've shown over and over and over again to every demo I've been to. Has anybody seen any of the... I think,
hasn't the Wii U version been shown?
Somebody, I think it was like a third-party reel where people said that there was some footage in there.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gotten a look at it to see if it looks significantly different, because it could be just shots from the other version.
This is definitely a game where we may bring back the dreaded comparison videos. But
well,
this is kind of, in a lot of ways, this is the kind of the multi-platform poster child of the next generation.
I think that one in Assassin's Creed 4. It'll be interesting to do game-by-game comparisons, because again, Assassin's Creed 4 has only been shown to me on the PS4. So it'll be interesting to see how they go side by side, how the load times work out, how much the graphics are down-resed. So we'll see.
This next one is from The Drowning Duck, who also goes as Guziv. And I think this will be a short one. Dynasty Warriors 8 was released.
Next question.
Why does the IP seem to fall under the radar, especially for a series that lasted so long? There's actually a big backstory to this that I won't get into, but I feel like Dynasty Warriors had its time in the sun when the PS2 launched. Like, just all those enemies on screen, and its gameplay just hasn't aged particularly well where it's interesting to people. I mean, that's my simple answer. It has its fans.
You're not going to get any complaints from me. Yeah, it obviously does very well to actually warrant number 8 and warrant a Western port of it.
Does it do well, or does it do well for them to just keep making the same cheap production schedule?
People love to. That's all I remember. Like going into an EB Games back when it 2001 or 2002. People loved it, but it hasn't really
it's got to be making.
They tweak the formula, but it's not a big enough thing to make you reinterested. It feels old. It feels dated.
They're not a charity. They've got to be making some money out of it, and probably more than enough money to keep them going. So, yeah, I haven't. I don't think I've played it since. Damn, I don't think I've played it since PS2.
I think I messed around with the 3DS one.
I think I had to play 6 or something. It's hard to say which one it was now.
This next one's not actually a question, but Marcus, I'd like you to respond. Clicks Wizard asks or says, just please don't make the whole episode about Evo.
Does it look like we've made the whole episode about Evo, Jose?
I
know who you are because you follow me and we have conversations.
Yes.
He's actually a good boy. But Evo, I mean, it is
surprised to see the new Street Fighter edition that came out of left field. I thought they were done. Like really, this is like the 5th iteration of Street Fighter 4.
My Twitter stream was blowing up over the weekend with everybody talking about Evo. And again, it's not something that really interests me, to be honest with you.
It was cool to see that Smash Brothers doing so well, especially after the minor controversy.
I did
Nintendo.
see that
like over 130,000 concurrent streams.
And that's a way for Nintendo not, the Nintendo didn't buy an ad. Nintendo didn't bring a pod with a new one. I mean, it goes to show Nintendo, they couldn't find a clue with a fucking map at times.
Yeah, the whole Let's Play thing is still a little weird. This next one is from, I like this guy's name, Joseph Noop. What have you noticed as some of the positive or negative aspects of the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One's new controllers? We talked about this a little bit during the E3 episodes.
Yeah.
I unfortunately did not get to pick up a PS4 controller, which seemed to be really win the day. I know everyone was going to like the pinball game to pick it up. Hopefully tomorrow at Comic-Con. I like the Xbox One controller though. It was definitely a step up with like the D-pad and like, its weight felt good. But I know. Well, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
I think they're both good, but I only have hands-on with the Xbox One.
I feel like the Xbox One's, like something about the ergonomics of that form is a little off to me. It felt kind of like I was putting too much tension on my wrists when I was holding it, personally. I also, I think that, it's clear that whatever they're going to do with the impulse triggers is not nearly done yet. So the implementation, like in Forza, just was not something that felt good to me. It was just kind of distracting and annoying.
Kind of slapped in there, right?
Yeah. But the PlayStation is a really good step up, especially the triggers. There's a lot more tension there. It's got that little hook so that your fingers fit in there and you don't feel like they're going to slip off all the time, like on the PlayStation 3. The control stick is also a lot tighter.
Are they still convex on the thumbsticks? Or
the thumbsticks, it's weird because it's got like a little ridge to where it goes down, but then there's like a bump in the middle, so your finger fits in there good.
Oh, interesting. Marcus, you got 2 cents?
Yeah, me? Oh, 2 cents? Never. I actually haven't got
pence, sorry.
2 pence, yes. That's like $50. I haven't got to play the Xbox One controller. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it. I have used the PS4 controller, and I agree with Blood. I think one of the things I noticed was that it feels weighty for the first time. It feels substantial. It's one of the criticisms I've had of the PS3 controllers in the past. They just felt light, and you could fart on them and they'd crack. This one feels it's got a little bit of heft. It's not too overbearing, but yes, the way the triggers work with a little lip, that works really fine as well.
Is your PS3 controller at home have the have Rumble? Or do you have an earlier one? Because they got a little weightier.
I have both. I've got the old one. I've got the old one, but I mean,
the old ones feel like they could float away.
Yeah, I mean, but even with Rumble, this one feels more substantial. This actually feels, and a lot of people will say, "Oh, you're mental because it was." I hated it. I actually liked the original Xbox controller.
The Duke.
The original.
Yeah.
Very first. No, I like it personally. I liked it.
Stretch your hands real quick.
Yeah.
These are normal size.
Okay. Look, these are big meat hooks of hands. I mean, I have trouble texting. I have fat thumbs.
I couldn't deal with that thing.
But, well, that's because, look at you. I mean, it's probably weighed more than you did. And I don't mean that in a nice way. I don't want... I love this man. He's great. But no, I like that because it's got some heft to it. This one is not ultra heavy or anything, but it feels that if I wanted to throw it at somebody, it could damage them.
Home invasions.
Yeah.
I will say I did get to use the slide pad thing on the PS4 controller. Still kind of weird to me.
I didn't get to use that one.
I think that will be.
It even clicks in.
You know how Uncharted 1 had 6-axis grenade throwing?
Right.
I'm sure a lot of these first-gen games, you're going to see that thing be there and forced upon you, and then it's going to kind of fade away. And you find that kind of acceptable notch where that kind of stuff is okay to use in certain
It was interesting to
expressly designed
see
formats.
that the 6 axis come back in Last of Us. A little shake.
Yeah, you know when well, let's go into the next question. But yeah, I didn't understand what was going on the first 2 times I did it. I was like, okay. I was like, oh, it's the flashlight. But it was really like, what's going on? This is from Coffee Sneeze, and he asks, simple question, but a good one. Does The Last of Us need a sequel?
I would say no.
Does it even need story-based DLC?
I would hope not.
Well, it is getting it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I mean, I guess the question is, it's side story. It's weird when you have something that's so story-driven, but it's also mechanically very sound, where you do kind of want to play more of it. I'll jump in here in a second, but minor spoiler. You guys have both played the game now, right?
Yeah.
Minor spoiler. The one thing I wouldn't mind seeing, and again, this is a thing where people are like, Last of Us is kind of a next-gen game. You never see infected versus bandits.
Right.
And I feel like that could have been a RAM thing. There's one point where you see a guy when you're sneaking in on the base in Pittsburgh and they shoot a couple infected.
Yeah.
You never get into that scenario. It could have been an interesting scenario. I like when I fight the Flood and the Covenant. I like when, going back to Doom, I like when you make the monsters fight each other. That kind of
And you mop
three-way
up whoever's
standoff.
left.
It's an interesting gameplay mechanic that's kind of base, but always sometimes hard to, when you have the 2 different kind of mindsets. It really is kind of like Flood versus Covenant in a way. Could have been something I wouldn't have mind seeing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the same characters.
Yeah. I would say, does it need a direct sequel? No. I think that story has been told and has been told very well. What I would be open to is actually seeing the things, the universe explored from a different perspective. So we've had perhaps the American version with Last of Us. What happens if you take it to Tokyo? What happens in Russia, or what happens in London, or however? And it's not exactly the same story, obviously not even at all the same story, but it spins on it and starts to flesh out that universe and see how how does it work in South America? I mean, or Canada. I mean, all these different geographical locations where you can, you have different challenges, and it can tell totally different stories. Doesn't have to talk about the cure or anything like that. It's basically talks about surviving. And I would love to see that explored a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that they ended it, I mean, they could go back to those characters and find another story for them too. I just think it's one of those things that it could go either way. Like I feel like that story arc was definitely very impactful, but at the same time, it doesn't really negate a sequel either. So.
Well, there's also a huge swath of time. I mean, again, we're still in spoiler mode if you're still tuning into this. There's a huge swath of time that goes by in the first 20 minutes from the night of the outbreak to what happens. So again, that could be perhaps where these other territories come in and these other locations and other characters. There's a whole gap there. Mm-hmm. That The Last of Us can be the intro into it, but it can be the ending. But then all these other this other game or other stories can fill out that middle section. And Naughty Dog are very, very good at doing it.
Got one more. I'm gonna jump around here because I got another Last of Us question. What did you guys think of The Last of Us multiplayer? The Survivors metagame is pretty unique and sadly overlooked, said Ben Link. It is interesting, but it's weird because for everything that's interesting about it, there's also something that's a little kind of off, but I think there's nothing else really like it, so it is kind of worth going through it, trying to get through the 12 weeks, see how many survivors you can get. The multiplayer game itself is fun. The shared lives thing kind of goes against, the kind of team play. If you're with a bad team, you lose a lot of guys. The kind of placing your... Have you guys played it at all?
I haven't. I mean, I just finished the single player. I will say it's a weird thing for me because it's like, again, it's like I don't feel like I need that. I feel like it almost runs counter to my perception of the games. I'll definitely jump into it and see what it's like because I don't want to prejudge it, but it's weird to me because my mind just doesn't want to really think of that as having a multiplayer component.
Kind of that weird association of people yelling at you and kind of bringing down the quality of the single player game.
I'm with Blood. I'll be honest with you, it holds no interest for me. Pretty much like I tried the Uncharted multiplayer and played it for a bit, and it just kind of left me cold. It just takes me out of what that game in The Last of Us has built and the world it has built and the characters it has brought into my life and into my head. And I really, just the multiplayer multiplayer just irks me most of the time nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to say that it's still well designed, and I think Naughty Dog, I think Uncharted 3's multiplayer was personally big steps, multiple steps up, and they're trying some experimental things for what's traditionally kind of, shoot each other in the head sort of game.
I mean, I really like Uncharted's multiplayer.
Yeah, so I think this is a little more bare bones. The metagame, from like a mechanical standpoint, is a little bare. I mean, you're like following some statistics and stuff like that. It's interesting. I'm not sure if it's something that I'd like to see adapted everywhere, like kind of how like leveling and unlockables have kind of been, like this game has that. But it is really fun when you equip a bow and arrow and you let loose that arrow and it lands when it hits a real person. Like those kind of moments, can, in some ways you can get those in a single player game when the AI acts just so, but in a multiplayer game, shooting an arrow across the screen or reviving your buddy and turning around a match, those are still some really cool stories that you can build out. But it does kind of pale in comparison to the single player. Trego1337, this guy's elite, asks, will Japanese games make a big comeback in the next generation of consoles? Marcus.
I mean, it's one of those things. Japanese games. I mean, that's a very broad term, isn't it? Are you talking about JRPGs? Are you talking about the Persona games or whatever?
I think we're talking about games made in Japan.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm guessing Sony in particular has a bunch of Japanese dev studios who are no doubt gearing up to do, or in full throw for PS4. Xbox, I think Microsoft have sort of like held their hands up and said, yeah, we just can't really compete in that area. I mean, the one area where the Japanese still dominate is the 3DS. And the Wii U. I mean, let's face it, Nintendo's a Japanese company.
Fact.
It is.
Yeah.
I know, and I know Sony is too, but I think Sony's more Western.
I think Nintendo, I have the sense that Nintendo is having a hard time adapting to the HD era and making things at the quality that they expect.
I think Nintendo's having a hard time adapting to the 21st century, to be honest with you. But
I mean, they've done some innovative things, though, like Miiverse is definitely a very different take on an online community. I mean, it doesn't have everything that you would expect from an online community, but at least it's not just a cut.
People are
and paste.
using it.
Yeah,
I'm actually a little surprised. Why can't Metroid Crawl was pretty.
Even
pretty
they
popular.
were surprised at how much people were drawing pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And how many people? I remember the Twitter for the first 24 hours after the Wii U was launched. How many people were drawing pictures of dicks? Is that still happening?
I haven't seen any.
Oh,
yeah,
I saw just lots
really.
of Marios.
I saw lots and lots of people just posting pics of.
You see what you want to see.
Well, it's just who people I follow in my stream. But look, I think. Do we hope for a resurgence? Do we hope for, a lot of Japanese developers have come out and said, yeah, we're behind the curve and we've let the West steal a march. I'm hoping there is a resurgence of innovation and, some cool stuff. I mean, was it The Evil Inside, The Evil Within? I always get them confused. But The Evil Within, Western publisher, Japanese developer, that game looks so good to me.
And, I think a lot of people were more impressed with the Western developed PlayStation 4 games. But what's interesting is there's almost a globalization happening within development, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Because Mark Cerny's team is in Japan and they're making Knack, but he's obviously a Westerner.
Well, even you look at The Last of Us. There's a ton of Chinese people that worked on that
art
game
outsourcing.
too. But that's what I'm saying though.
Outsourcing is a little.
The
different.
development on a lot of these big games is kind of globalized, anyways.
And I know I think Chris Svensson just resigned, but that was always the whole idea back when Grin was around. This whole idea of Capcom being kind of a pan-global. How Dead Rising's development went over to that Canadian team that I can't remember right now. And I think obviously Nintendo still has their R&D guys, but even their kind of the farm league with Retro has been maybe squandered a little with the Donkey Kong series at this point. But I think we are going to just start seeing things happen as more and more markets become more more viable.
Right.
But on the same guy, games are expensive, and I think we'll see a lot of really good Vita and 3DS games from Japan as well. And those guys play a lot of games, but games are costing a ton to make. Blah 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 the fourth asks, which Marvel hero or heroine would you like to see have the same level of success in games as Batman with the Arkham series? Brandon's actually working on a series of this, but is this a viable thing, or do we just name our favorite Marvel character?
Right.
Well, I think there's a few. I mean, you look at the ones that were already been put out there. I mean, Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man.
There was a rumor that the Captain America game was going to be like Batman, and then it wasn't.
No, no. Somebody was misheard because it was basically, "Damn, this game is bad, man."
Oh,
I thank you.
try the fish.
Yes, indeed.
Be here all week.
Yeah, I mean, like I would love to see a full on great Iron Man game. I think Spider-Man was great in the beginning. I would personally, I would love to see an M-rated Wolverine game with drinking, debauchery,
Wolverine
and
wasn't
lots
that
of
bad.
slashing.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
It was better than the movie, certainly, but it was still pretty repetitive, and it was kind of neutered. I would like to see a full on, like I'd love to see an R-rated Wolverine movie. I would love to see an M-rated Wolverine game. Will never happen.
I would love to see kind of this is going to sound kind of weird because I actually don't like Donkey Kong 64 all that much. But if you took Donkey Kong 64 and Arkham Asylum and you made an X-Men game where you would switch between different X-Men to get to different parts, maybe you could switch on the fly so there was no weird good backtracking only, no like going to the mansion or something like that. So Shadowcat could like phase through certain walls or disrupt stuff. Nightcrawler. My X-Men period is very particularly in the early 90s. So
it's from 2 weeks, from February to March 1993.
But I just really like Shadowcat. But I like the idea of using all these abilities in combat, but also kind of environmentally as well. I mean, that's really baseline, but I feel like the X-Men are... I like them a lot more than the Avengers, per se.
They've been woefully underserved. But, I mean, just going back to them, and I'd like to really throw out the ultimate fanboy wish for me and see a full-on Secret War game based on the original Secret Wars from the mid-'80s, where every villain and every hero were yanked together, pulled off planet, or almost every hero and villain, and it was just one huge pitch battle. Because then that goes back to what you're saying about The Last of Us, where you see people, the infighting, and do you pick people off, and you bring politics and intrigue into it. That would be a great game for me.
Yeah, I mean, I really, X-Men is probably my one of my favorites as well, and
you struck me as an Alpha Flight kind of guy.
Canada.
But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed being able to use their powers and upgrades, and the ones that Activision did last generation, the kind of Diablo style beat 'em ups,
X-Men Legends.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be nice to see, something with that level of RPG progression in a game that's more fully realized, like Batman Arkham.
Yeah, I'm just thinking with like GTA and the multiple protagonists, like that's cool, but once you start really defining them as having these different abilities, I know it's still kind of like character swapping, but having that level of animation, like I still freak out over Batman's cape ripping as you played, and I played The Amazing Spider-Man. Was that last year or 2 years ago?
Oh,
and his entire suit just gets destroyed except his mask is perfectly.
They did that
perfectly
in
fine.
the movies too.
Pretty dumb. I'm going to answer this one from the Rubik's Cube 22. How did Invisible Walls start? And why is the show called Invisible Walls? We wanted to do a podcast, and we all put down a bunch of names, and this one was chosen.
Who came up with this name?
I think it was Shane.
Probably.
Yeah, but there was like a list of like 200.
In a lot of ways, it was Shane's project, really.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't call it a podcast when it started because we didn't want to associate with being audio only. But it really was a podcast. I mean, whatever. That term's so vague anyway. And the idea was that we were it's not about us, it's about the games. So we were invisible. I got a little weird meta. But, it's a video game term that hadn't been overly used yet.
And now it's not about the games, it's about us, goddammit.
Yes. The Anime Gaming Nerd. Is the current model for game budgets broken? I don't know. Marketing. They spend a lot of money on marketing.
Considering that Tomb Raider is supposedly a failure, maybe.
It's thinking about business stuff really bums me out a lot of times because it just seems impossible. Like what you just said with Tomb Raider, it's like, great, oh my god. Or you think about an indie game, and you're like, that indie game cost $100,000 to develop, and it's like these two guys were paying themselves $20,000 for 5 years. That's why.
Yeah.
When you think about the numbers, it gets a little disturbing. Marketing really weirds me out when it can be like half the budget of a game's development or sometimes more.
Well, the thing you've got to remember is that it's not just marketing, it's not just PR, it's not just the sales team. I mean, when everything built into the budget of a game includes the cost of the accountant, the electricity to keep the publisher going and the developer going. I mean, there's a whole
The people
bunch
that
of
clean
stuff.
the office, the
Yeah.
janitor, the
Security guards,
Yeah, exactly.
the cost of air conditioning the server
There's a
room.
reason those credits go on for 30 minutes,
Yeah.
right?
Do I think that there are a lot of games companies that have become too big and unwieldy? Yes. I think a lot of them are too top heavy. A lot of people have their own agendas in a lot of companies nowadays, and they're too busy protecting their turf and their fiefdoms to actually be worried about producing good games, and that's why we do get sequelitis every year. That's why we get more and more dross coming out, and it's ironic that Square Enix came out with bitching about Tomb Raider when some of the excess that they have put out with games that actually don't sell anywhere outside of Japan, that haven't innovated. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think the Eidos Montreal crew are the only ones keeping Square Enix viable right now. And if Square Enix want to bitch and moan continually about the cost of games and how they're not making a profit, well, why don't they sell Eidos and all the IPs to somebody else and just go back to cloning Final Fantasy every year?
Yeah, I'm sure their $17 iOS games are
Right.
doing them pretty well as the people buy them. I like this question from Kerno Devil. I'd like to know your thoughts on the mainstream viability of the Oculus Rift. I'm hearing nothing but great things. I will just weigh in for 2 seconds. I can't see 3D. I love the Oculus Rift because I can still do the head tracking. I've only used it for a couple minutes. Super impressed. Mainstream viability, I think it would be a little hard. Obviously, I think of like the Virtual Boy, which isn't exactly the same, but the idea of goggles are always so dorky. But as things like, we all make fun of Jeremy for various reasons.
For deserved reasons.
But as a Google Glass and that sort of stuff gains prominence and stuff on the relatively low cost of the Oculus Rift, I would like to see it break through. I know I bought Surgery Simulator 2013, and I'm just waiting to hook that thing up and saw into some bones.
Yeah, Ezra showed me a video of somebody that had paired it up with a racing simulator seat, and and that looked really fun. I think it's strange, not only because like what you're saying, like people like to have something on a big screen where their friends can come by and see, but I also think it's it's a strange technology because it doesn't fit every genre. Like, it would be weird to be the Lakitu cameraman in Mario 64 with that, right? I mean, it would be cool because you've got that personal 3D space, just be able to see the game without the TV set. But I don't know. It's something that goes a little bit specific to first-person genres, I think.
I think for me, the potential for it crossing over is the major benefit that both of the next gen consoles have, or the two new next gen consoles, with them both being PC based. And if Oculus Rift, that could be made compatible with Xbox One and PS4, I mean, it's obviously compatible with PC and a couple of titles so far. But I would again see playing Call of Duty, or Fallout 4, or Dishonored, or any number of those sort of games where you have that first Mirror's Edge, the new Mirror's Edge in Oculus Rift, that might actually just give you a heart attack. But
now, do you think that there's any chance of a platform holder buying them out? Would they go for that, or would they want to try to play all the waters?
It depends on who's got the most money. I mean, if they've got enough money to keep them going and they're not hurting for it, I would hope they would hold out, and we could see Oculus Rift come out across all the major formats. I'd hate to lose that from the PC. The first time I tried the Rift was E3 last year, and it made Doom 3 playable and fun. And I mean, that in itself is worth making justifying the purchase. But I think the one thing that Oculus is fantastic, and I do think it's going to do great things. The fact that you're still holding the controller. I hope that somebody does a Kickstarter to redo the Power Glove.
No.
Or a version of the Power Glove.
So bad. That's also in Surgery Simulator, that kind of weird 3D controller.
Well, you've also got the foot pedals now. Was it the Stinky Foot
didn't see that
pedals
one.
that are for
Is that
PC.
a Kickstarter as well? Or?
No, it's actually out now.
Oh, okay.
It's in retail, but it's basically foot control for running or whatever. You can customize it, whatever. So I'm seeing these things come together, and I think it'd be great. I mean, for me, gaming is not necessarily an experience I want to sit with a bunch of guys and do, or a bunch of friends. Just have people watch me play a game. I get bored by watching people play. It's a very personal experience for me, and I could see having Oculus and some form of intuitive controller and the stinky pad, and that would be the true next generation experience.
This next question is from Red Wings 951. Do you guys think the PlayStation Vita is officially dead, or it still has a chance against the 3DS? Dead is a strong word. I think we kind of already hit on this, but I think the Vita is going to be okay, but I think the 3DS is going to continue to dominate.
Yeah, it's been such a great year for the 3DS. I mean, even those little Street Pass games that just came out.
But I think the biggest problem is still from tablets and phones, probably being the biggest competition.
I don't think it's dead, but I look, and take this how you will. I went into GameStop yesterday just to have a nosy round like I like to do, and the PS Vita display and software, the amount of software they had was exactly the same size as the Wii U. So you can take that as a positive for the Wii U, negative for the Wii U, or a positive for the Vita.
Let's kind of switch over to maybe some lightning round questions. This is from Ecstasy 311. When will Sony actually release the PlayStation 4 launch date? I'm guessing Gamescom or TGS, my guess.
Yeah, I'm guessing either Gamescom or right after Microsoft.
I'm guessing between now and November.
Well, that's
you're
going
to win, then. You win that one. This one's for me, from Heath Richards. He's wondering what the E3 embargoed game was. It was Hotline Miami 2.
Oh, right.
Which had one of the most startling openings I've ever seen in a game that was kind of interesting and also disturbing. Stephen C. Kerr, will Nintendo form more studios to create their software, or will they keep hiring external studios? I mean, this kind of goes with the idea of the HD games. They're like, HD games are expensive to make. I don't know where they're going to put their capital.
Yeah.
I just don't.
I mean, like we were talking about earlier, you see so many people, working with other teams to get all of this, just the content, the HD content put together. And Nintendo, I think, are still trying to do it with their internal guys.
And you're also doing it on architecture that is now totally different to its competing consoles that are coming out. So, yeah, good luck.
This is from Big A, Texas. Why do Sony and Microsoft keep trying to shove apps down gamers' throats when all we want is games and good servers for online?
Marketing money. All we want is good online and good games and just a great gaming experience. However, they're fascinated by this entertainment box in your living room. It's the buzzword. It's the marketing.
I think there's some truth to it, though. I mean, cable subscriptions that are dropping for the first time ever. Hulu's put out original programming Netflix has been putting out original programming that has raised their subscriptions to the point where it's viable for them to produce, HBO quality shows, whatever that means.
I mean, but even the cable companies are making their own apps or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think they're on the Xbox yet, but I mean, it's.
I think some of them are, or some of the networks are anyway. And then you can go buy a Blu-ray player for $60 that has Hulu and Netflix on it. So
my TV has Hulu and Netflix on it, or your Roku box.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
you have to be competitive.
Yeah, and it
is annoying for gamers.
It is. It's totally annoying for gamers. But I mean, that's unfortunately the buzzword that's caught the eye of, in particular, Microsoft. They want to be this entertainment juggernaut, and we'll see how that goes.
Stephen East asks, where I am, the internet connection is a problem. So I want to know from the staff of GT how much an issue would always online have been.
Honestly, when I was living in West LA, it would have been a hell of a problem. Ironically, when I moved more out into the suburbs of Altadena on the side of a mountain, it won't be a problem now for me. But I know a lot of people. I mean, AT&T have horrible internet.
Do you actually get dropped or just slow? Because I get bad connectivity, but I'm never actually dropped.
Oh, I was when I was
very rarely.
When I was over this end of town, it was dead slow. It was worse. It was almost dial up at some point. But now I've got a nice regular 4 meg connection, which works.
But we live in cities, so
yeah. I mean, I think we've kind of seen from all the backlash, all the different scenarios that are out there, that it could become problematic for.
And again, not to Dragon, an old thing that's becoming a little less of an issue, but like military is like, a big thing.
Well, I mean, just think if you wanted to go away on vacation, you go to a cabin where there is no internet or whatever, and you do want to take your Xbox with you and just chill out, for a week or so and just play some games. You couldn't fire it up with always.
But even Steam, if you forget to set it to offline mode, you have to be
I've
online
had
to
that
set it to
problem
offline mode. If you like moved or something, you can't play your PC games. Fair and Nasty, good name, says, what do you think of Kojima's claims that Metal Gear Solid 5 will be the most dark Metal Gear Solid game yet? I don't care.
I don't care.
I mean, I like the story. I like the batshit craziness. I like the weird social issues, but they always felt a little more, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? They're a little more in your face.
Yeah.
They're almost allegorical than actual really needed into the plot. Like, I think of the actual Metal Gear and nuclear proliferation as always being this kind of weird MacGuffin that gets thrown in my face. But I'm cool with the crazy spy story, the interesting characters, and of course the crazy cool stealth gameplay that they keep adding onto. Especially, I'm curious about the whole open world stuff we saw with Ground Zeroes. The theme stuff I always thought was a little bit of a reach, but I appreciate him trying.
Yeah, I think that. I think it has to be. I mean, this kind of feels like, I haven't dug too deep into the plot of the game, but I kind of feel like this has got to be like somewhere in that moment where he's becoming the bad guy. He is becoming the big boss, and you've seen that sort of happening through Peace Walker and all of that. But, at some point you have to flip a switch from, okay, I understand where this guy is coming from, to you are kind of screwed up.
For me, I really don't care. I'm actually I want to go into this one with an open mind. I found, obviously, the story's phenomenally cheesy in the past. I just want to go in open mind this time and just see what they've done, see how the open world works, and, form my judgments from there. I mean, I just want to be entertained.
Good point. And finally, from, how can I pronounce this one? Mike CQ. Do you guys ever tire of playing as many video games as you do? If so, what is your favorite respite from gaming?
Well, yeah, I think I'll jump in here. Yeah, we do, and one of the problems is that sometimes we don't get to finish games. I mean, for me, it's a good book, a good movie, or just going out with my wife and just getting away and just chilling, switching off. But yeah, I would definitely advise reading books. Books are great.
I don't know if I get tired of playing games so much as I just get overwhelmed by, this constant sense of like I need to be on top of, like knowing what's been good over the year, and all of that stuff, and trying to catch up on like, because growing up I didn't have a PC all the time. I didn't necessarily have a PlayStation or PlayStation 2 all the time, so there's backlogs there. There's backlogs every year of stuff that I want to get to. I haven't played Tomb Raider yet. So I always kind of have that sense of I have what I'm playing, but then in the back of my mind it's like, oh, I got to get done with this so I can play something else.
And working here, you don't always get to play what you want to play.
Right. You play a lot of games that you don't even care about, or you thought you wouldn't care about, but you actually do end up liking.
Well, I wouldn't say maybe cares. That may be a little strict, but I think we have a healthy interest in most things. We try to make sure the appropriate people review stuff, but just if you have 3 games you have to review while a big game comes out, sometimes it's hard to get to it. I am definitely scared of really long games sometimes that I know I'd want to play. Yeah. But I know it's like a 100-hour game or something like that.
Well, I think
and then sometimes you do have to unplug. Like I just took a vacation and everyone's like, oh, you bring in your 3DS and your Vita. I'm like, actually no, I'm bringing like 4 books, Yeah. You need to reset sometimes.
Well, I think the other thing is it's
refreshing message boards and Twitter feeds nonstop while you're out there.
Well, I think it's also an age thing. I know I've got almost 10 years at least on you. And how old are you?
I'm a little older than him, I think.
How old are you?
33.
Okay.
I'm 32. So.
All right. So, yeah, I've got 10 years on you and 9 years on you. And I think one of the things I've noticed from a lot of the journalists I follow on Twitter who are in their mid to late 20s, they don't switch off. It's games all the time. It's Twitch TV. I'm going to stream this game just for fun. And that's fantastic. But I think one of the things that I have definitely done over the last 3 years in particular is rein back a little. I don't play every single game, that comes out. I don't, finish every single game that comes out. And, I step back and I appreciate things outside of the games industry. And I think that's something that just comes along with age. I mean, I do like to travel more. I do like to get away and go and have a good meal at a good restaurant. Read. I mean, I just bought like 8 books at Romans in the last week.
Well, I feel with work, like I'm definitely playing games or involved with games every day. But if I'm not playing games at home, it's usually because I have to do a lot of dishes or clean something.
We have a dishwasher, but yeah.
My dishwasher broke, so it's definitely been a lot of dishes lately.
Yeah.
But games are fun, but there are a couple other things to do. You can like, watch movies and read books.
Well, that's the thing. I would definitely say have alternate interests. You know, look at everything else. I mean, especially as you know.
I mean, I go to a lot of shows. You know that I'm constantly going out to concerts and supporting local
I know
music
is huge for you. I mean, you've seen that with all the soundtrack stuff you've done as well. I mean, and you've managed to combine that. And I would say just get out there and also learn about the world. I mean, don't be stuck in this bubble. And I talk about this a little bit in Annoyed Gamer. We gamers are in the gaming bubble. And there is a generation that's coming through that have always been in this bubble and don't really know what's perhaps some of it, other things that are going on and how other people perceive gamers. And become a well-rounded person who adores games is being much better than being a super awesome gamer who's crap at everything else.
Well, this is fun, gentlemen. I thought this was, I skipped a couple, but I think we did about 19, 20 questions. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Have probably a little more of a normal show, some Comic-Con reportage. Maybe you can bring some of the toys you get.
Maybe
Marcus,
I will.
Next time.
I will.
I want to see that RoboCop thing if you got it.
Yeah, if I get it, it just looks so awesome.
Double D batteries. They don't make double Ds, do they?
Small nuclear generator.
Those are boobs. Well, anyway, that was Invisible Walls. Thank you for watching, and keep watching in the future.
See this and other GT shows and game reviews on the GT Originals iOS app, available now on the App Store.